Mr. Perry, would you like to read the resolution?
Sure would. Here we go. Whereas the town of Tiverton, the town, stands in physical crisis that jeopardizes its ability to continue to staff and fund a full-time professional fire and rescue service. Whereas the town confirms its desire to achieve the highest fire protection class rating practicable with the staffing, equipment, and resources available to the town, to Tiverton Fire Department, and to maintain its current response time performance with respect to all calls for fire and other rescue services within the physical and budgetary constraints imposed upon the town. Whereas the town prefers to organize its department in a manner that allows for the most cost-effective response to the nearly 3,000 calls experienced on an annual basis, including mutual aid calls runs through remote areas of the town. Whereas the town has an obligation to provide a wide range of services to all its citizens and achieve a balance of competing demands that can be supported by the town's taxpayers, who determine the ultimate level of funding available to the town government via a financial town referendum. Whereas the town has identified over 77 worth capital improvement projects necessary for ongoing functions of government, but for which there are no funds available. Whereas the town derives 85% of its real estate tax revenues from residential taxpayers, which is significantly greater than the experience of other Rhode Island municipalities. Whereas the town has absorbed a 42% increase in the billed cost of electricity generation beginning in January 2015. Whereas the town has experienced a town-wide catastrophic failure of roadway paving and sidewalks due to the record snowfalls and resulting water runoffs of the 2015 winter season, with no hope of reimbursement or other forms of relief from the state of Rhode Island or the United States government to meet the resulting replacement and/or repair cost. Whereas the town must adjust its fiscal year 2016, July 1st, 2015, and June 30th, 2016, budget to reflect a 14.7% increase in premium rates for its town-sponsored health insurance plans, including the plan offered to the fire department. And the town anticipates similar double-digit increases in the coming years. Whereas, as a result of the need to close the town's landfill operation in fiscal year 2017, the town must raise an additional $2 million for capital projects, and it must begin incurring an increased annual cost of well over $600,000 for hauling and disposing of the town's non-recyclable waste. Whereas the town's unfunded liability arising of the out-of-post employment benefits, OPEC, the town is obligated to provide to current and future retirees is $27.7 million, and a significant portion of that liability is attributed to the employees in the fire department. Whereas the town's local police pension plan is only 63% funded, and it has a $5.2 million unfunded liability. As a result, the town is subject to and has been fully compliant with a funding improvement plan for this pension plan, necessitating a budget allocation of at least $700,000 per year for the last several years and foreseeable future. Whereas, as a result of the pension litigation involving the state, its municipalities, and public employee unions, the town is expected to have to begin paying an additional $218,000 employee contributions to the Municipal Employees Retirement System, MERS, beginning in fiscal year 2017, which is not factored into the annual budget. Whereas the town's current practice of staffing the department level leaves it unable to absorb vacations, sick, military, injured on duty, or other forms of leave without having to call back firefighters at overtime rates. Whereas the resulting overtime compensation paid to department members consistently exceeds budget line items, at times more than doubling the amount approved by taxpayers, either through town meetings or referendums. Whereas for the covered fiscal year, total overtime spending in the department is over $300,000, or nearly 20% of the base salary account of the department. Whereas in light of the competing demands of town government, the town council concludes that this pattern of excess overtime expenses in the department is unsustainable. Whereas the staffing issue have arisen within the department have created morale, financial safety, organizational discipline difficulties which interfere with the core mission of the department. Whereas, its consideration of the above financial factors, the Town Council of Tiverton has concluded that rapidly rising expenditures cannot be met with flat or very low rising revenues, necessitating a review of the organizational structure of all town departments and operations for potential effectiveness and resulting cost savings, efficiencies. Whereas most paid fire departments in towns across America of comparable size to the town, operate within a three-division organizational structure. Scientific studies show that the three-divisional structure operating in conjunction with a shift schedule in which firefighters are on duty for 24 consecutive hours, followed by 48 hours off duty, enhances public safety and improves firefighting health and safety as compared with the four-division structure and shift schedules the town's firefighters currently follow. Whereas the town can realize an estimated reduction in staffing costs of over $389,000 in its first full year of implementation by reorganizing into a three-division structure in its line firefighting rescue operation without any layoffs or reduction in salaries, with even greater savings expected through anticipated reductions in overtime costs and the town's annual required OPEC contributions. Whereas the town's firefighters will reduce their work days on average to 100 days per year on a three-division structure operating in conjunction with a 24-hour consecutive hour duty schedule. Whereas the town can increase the number of firefighters on duty by approximately 30% by reorganizing into three divisions and still realize significant structural savings in staffing and overtime costs. Whereas similar savings could only be realized by effecting drastic and unacceptable cuts in public safety and other essential town services, contrary to the public good and welfare and the mission of town. Whereas the same savings, efficiencies, and level of protection to the town could only be realized in the fire department by changing the nature of the firefighting rescue operation in the town, including changes from all professional departments to one that includes volunteers, called persons, and private contractors. Now therefore, pursuant to the authority vested in the Town Council through the Town of Tiverton's Home Rule Charter, the Rhode Island Constitution, and such other authorities governing the sovereign rights of this municipality, the Town Council of the Town of Tiverton hereby resolves and declares, number one, effective immediately, the Tiverton Fire Department shall convert and reorganize into three divisions organizational structure for all full-time paid line firefighters and rescue personnel. Each of the three line firefighter rescue divisions shall consist of approximately one-third of the fire department's line firefighting and rescue personnel. This council will postpone the implementation of the effect of its decision to recognize the fire department into platoons until July 1st, 2015. Number two, effective July 1st, 2015, unless a different agreement regarding the effects of the reorganization is incorporated into an agreement with the collective bargaining representatives of affected employees, the same annual salaries shall be provided to firefighters. The same number of hours of paid sick leave, paid vacation leave, and other paid time off shall occur to firefighters per week or month or year of services or event as currently is provided by the parties' collective bargaining agreement, but the actual and accumulation of such paid time off will convert to hours at a rate of 12 hours per day or working days of leave, and overtime shall be paid given as prescribed by the Federal Labor Standards Act 29 USA 207. Number three, unless a different agreement regarding the effects of this reorganization is incorporated into an agreement with the collective bargaining representatives of affected employees, the three-line firefighters rescue division will operate on a regular schedule consisting of 24-hour tour on duty commencing at 7 a.m. followed by 48-hour period of off-duty. Implementation of the schedule may be suspended during good faith negotiations over the effects of the reorganization on firefighters, but not beyond June 30th, 2015. Number four, effective immediately, there shall be an office of fire marshal within the fire department, which will be a full-time position.
I'd like to entertain a motion.
I move that we adopt the resolution as printed here and as read by Counselor Perry relating to the executive session item, Town Administrator 4246-5A2, collective bargaining, IAFF.
Second.
Do you want to do a roll call? All those in favor? Against? Unanimous. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Perry, for reading that for me.
Motion to seal the minutes of executive session.
Second.
Motion been made and second. All those in favor? Against? Okay, we'll continue. Consent agenda, approval of executive session meeting minutes, March 23rd, 2015. Approval of special town council meeting minutes, March 18th, 2015. Approval of special town council meeting executive minutes, March 18th, 2015. Approval of special town council meeting minutes, March 16th, 2015. Approval of special town council meeting minutes, March 14th, 2015. Approval of regular town council minute meetings, March 9th, 2015. Approval of special town council meeting minutes, March 3rd, 2015. Approval of town council workshop minutes, March 2nd, 2015. Approval of executive session meeting minutes, February 9th, 2015. Receipt of minutes from the following boards and commissions: Arts Council, Conservation Commission, Prevention Coalition Newsletter, Historical Cemetery Commissions 2, Zoning Board of Review, Harbor and Coastal Water Management Commission, Open Space and Land Preservation Commission, Historical Preservation Advisory Board 2, Recreation and Beach Commission 3. Correspondence received and filed. Foster Town Council resolution opposing legislation relating to taxation, levy, and assessment of local taxes for new construction. Portsmouth Town Council resolution relating to school committee return of surplus taxpayer monies to cities or towns to reserve funds. Town of Hopkin, resolution opposing H5044, SO559, and H5173. Armenian National Committee request for flag to be flown on April 24th. Republican Party resolution in opposition to H5847 relating to waters and navigation, harbors and harbor lines. Boards and commissions annual reports. Building Code Board of Appeals, Historical Cemeteries, Open Space and Land Preservation Commission, Becassett Hill Cemetery Commission, Recreation and Beach Commission, Tree Commission, and Zoning Board of Review. Town Administrator, Fire and Police Department overtime reports, March 2015. Treasurer Expense and Revenue reports, March 2015. Town Administrator, March Monthly Department report. Kate Michelle, Planning Board Administrative Activities report for March 2015. Councilor Pelletier, Distribution and Memoranda, Police Pension Accrual and Investment Report for council review. Council approval for Town Administrator to proceed with written notice to extend contract to Police Chief Thomas Blakey. William A. Surratt, Amicable UCC requests permission for 5K run/walk from Four Corners to Neck Road to Sapower Bridge and return Saturday, April 18th, 2015, from 9 a.m. to 11:30, subject to police notice. Peter Monis, Sakana Bridge Bike Lane Celebration, requests permission for bike rides starting in Portsmouth with loop traveling through Tiverton from Sakana Bridge to Nanaquarket Road and Main Road back to Sakana Bridge on April 25th, 2015, from 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. Councilman Pelletier requests council approval of resolution opposing Bill 5257 relating to water and navigation, harbor, and harbor lines. Any council would like to pull anything off the consent agenda?
Madam President, I have three items, CA3D, CA11, and CA12, please.
CA3D,
D as in dog,
yep, CA11,
and CA12.
CA12. Anyone else?
CA6, Madam President, and CA9.
Anything else?
And I need CA1A.
Do I have a motion to approve the rest of the consent agenda? So moved.
Second.
Motion been made and second. All those in favor? Opposed? CA1.
I just need to remove the executive session meeting minutes of March 23rd, 2015, so that we can include a recusal on item number 8. And if we could move that to the next council meeting, that would be great.
Does that mean?
Yes.
I'm sorry, what was the motion? I didn't.
To not accept the minutes.
Second time evidently. Hello.
To not accept the minutes because we need a recusal for item number 8.
8.
8.
I could just
Item number 8.
minutes to include it.
And pass it instead of coming back.
Yes.
All right. Then I move to amend the executive session meeting minutes of March 23rd to include a recusal for myself on item number 8.
Is it you? No. Second.
Motion's been made and second. All those in favor? Opposed? CA3D. Mr. Pelletier, I believe.
Yeah. I just wanted to take a brief moment to acknowledge and read a little paragraph here, because this year marks the 100th anniversary of the Armenian genocide. And I guess since it's on this agenda, they requested a brief moment of silence. I think that's, if that pleases the council, that would be appropriate. And it requests, please stand for a moment of silence in remembrance of the 1.5 million Armenians who perished in the genocide of 1915. It's been getting a lot of attention because it is the 100th anniversary, so I thought it might be appropriate for us to have a moment of silence.
I'll stand, please.
Thank you. I move that we accept the receive and file CA3D, the Armenian National Committee request for a flag to be flown on April 24th, which I believe we will also do. Correct, Nancy?
Yeah. Do we have it on?
I have an Armenian flag, but I could contact them and get one.
Oh, I thought we always did that, but whether or not we do.
Mrs. Pelletier's raising her hand. She'll get one.
Barbara's going to get one.
Barbara will
Great.
get us one.
Thank you.
Second.
Motion been made and second. All those in favor? Thank you. CA6, Treasurer Expense and Revenue Reports.
Yes, Madam President. I'd just like to, I pulled it off the consent agenda just to be put on another agenda this morning. I think it's time that we should look at this and see where our shortfalls are going to be, where we may be over. This is as of March, I believe. So we have 3 months before the budget ends. And I'd just like to take some time, and when we have some time, to look at this before it gets too late.
We could put it on the next agenda, Nancy.
Could we do that, please? Thank you.
We'll have a motion for that, to accept it and put it on the next agenda.
I'll make a motion to put it on the next agenda.
Second?
Motion been made and second. All those in favor?
I'd also like to do the same thing with A9. This is the police pension. And speaking to some of my colleagues, I think this is a very important one. I think we have to look at the actuarials that are in front of us with this one, and maybe go out for bid on getting another actuarial done, to see where we actually will be for next year. If you really look at this, I don't think they're correct, and I know...
Well, it's also now 9 months old, so we will be going out again, I should say the Police Pension Board will be going out again for an actuarial study if you haven't already started the process. We've got 3 months left of the fiscal year, and, well, we've got less than that, but...
Yeah, as a member of the board,
I too.
No, I'm looking at you. You are, as the council designate to the board.
Yes, I am.
Designate to the board. I'll address you as chairman of that board. Yes, I think you may have, we had 2 meetings. I'm not so sure you were at the last one.
I wasn't at the
or all
last
of it. But we did request the town treasurer to communicate with the actuary and to begin the process of looking at all of these assumptions and testing their validity. We typically do the actuarial report after we've closed books in the fiscal year for that retrospective. So we're a couple months away from beginning the process, and we would receive it next winter.
Okay.
But as most of the members of the board, police chiefs here as well, I think we're all in unified agreement. That's redundant, but we are all in agreement that we need to do this again and take a good look at it because of the contributions the town has already made and some of the other assumptions that are in here.
Thank you.
I'd like to entertain a motion to accept and put on the next agenda.
Actually, I'll make a motion to, I don't think we have to put it on the next agenda because we'll wait until the actuary comes back
Okay,
to take a look at it because there's nothing we can do now
okay.
until it's
Motion
done.
just to accept.
We'll make a motion just to accept it.
Second.
Motion been made in second. All those in favor? Opposed? All right, C11.
No.
C11, no?
No, I'm sorry, 11, yeah, sorry. I also just wanted to bring some attention to the 5K run walk that is going to be happening on Saturday, this coming Saturday, from Amicable. It begins at 9 o'clock. Boy. It begins at 9 o'clock and will be over by around 11:30. They indicated they had about 120 registrations, and there's musicians, and if I remember correctly, it's a fun time. It's a little bit, there's a musical element to it, so I encourage anybody that wants to participate to do so, and you can contact Amicable Church or oh, excellent, I didn't even see you there.
Hello, welcome.
Good evening, I'm William A. Sterrett, pastor at Amicable Church, and I want to apologize. I should have been here at least 2 weeks ago, I should have been here at least 2 months ago. The first year we did this is the 3rd annual, we came and asked, and you all said, you gave us your blessing, and it was all a wonderful thing, and we figured that's a done deal, we'll never have to show up again. But I got a call, I want to thank the town clerk's office, I got a call on Tuesday, I said, you know, you got to get approval from the town council to do this. I said, we do? When's this was last, and so here I am. So I hope that you will approve it. It is a good time. For those listening, if you can still register, but you can't get a T-shirt, but you can also just show up, and Seamus Galligan and Mike Hefner will be playing again, acoustic guitars, great music, and Hawkwood, who an a cappella group from Roger Williams University will be there. They were the opening act for Jay Leno at PPAC. So it'll be a good time, but it's a short window, and I'm sorry about it. We'll probably start making things difficult for driving about 8:30, but we'll definitely be cleaned up by 11:30. So,
Great.
okay.
Thank you.
Any other questions about that? A warning, I'm due back next meeting. I hope I'm on the agenda, representing the church this time on a different matter. And the
Yes.
warning is, it'll be a little bit longer sermon, and bring your checkbooks. All right, just-
Thank
Thanks
you.
very much. So I would move to grant permission for the 5K run walk this Saturday, April 18th, and encourage everybody to attend.
Second.
Motion been made in second. All those in favor?
Thank you.
Good luck.
Thank you very much. The last item I have is also one of these publicity announcements. 12-mile bike tour through Portsmouth and Tiverton, returning back to Portsmouth. And is Peter here? Do you want to say anything about it, Peter? To get the people there?
No.
No? Well, if you'd like to. So it's a celebration of the bike lane, and it's going to be taking place on the 25th, so that's next Saturday, right?
Following Saturday.
Yeah, well, the Saturday after this coming,
Right.
from 11 to 2. How can people get in touch with you? Or can they just show up?
Well, they should just show up, I think. And we're going to do supposedly several press releases basically throughout the whole state, believe it or not.
Excellent.
The group is, as you know, stop from the beginning. About 12 years ago, I put in a tip project for the bike path in Tiverton along the bike rail tracks, and it's still in the state process of doing another study, which we're trying to push it off, get off the study and get into a design and construction phase, be better off. Because I think most people would like to have that facility in this town. So we got together with the Bike of Newport and the Bike Fall River and myself, Tiverton Bike Trailblazer. We're having an event, a celebration, and a bike ride. Basically, I'm not involved with the bike ride. So they're going to start some people will start from Newport and meet in Portsmouth at the park and ride and go across the bridge into Tiverton and back to the beginning of the ramp there in Tiverton, where we have a half-an-hour celebration. A few people speak about what they think about bike paths and support it. And hopefully Jay Edwards will be there. He said he would talk to us and the other speakers. As a group, like I said, those three groups, we have support from the Narragansett Wheelman, Bike Rhode Island Coalition, and so the ending of the event will be a celebration crossing of the bridge. First we'll do some bicyclists, then runners and joggers, and then the walkers. Just go across the bridge and get ourselves on the paper.
Great.
Try to push the people in Providence to get the idea that Newport County has not received 1 cent for off-the-road bike path, while the rest of the state is receiving money over the many years. I think it's our turn to get something in this town for riders, walkers, joggers, and skateboarders. So that's basically it.
Thanks very much, Peter. And so I move that we grant permission for a bike ride starting in Portsmouth with a loop traveling through Tiverton from Secana Bridge to Nantucket Road and Main Road back to Secana Bridge on April 25th, 2015, from approximately 11 to 2.
Second?
Motion's been made and second. All those in favor? Unanimous. Public hearing and public presentations, advertised public hearings, proposed ordinance amendment to Chapter 58, Article 2, peddlers and hawkers. Town Administrator? Yes, yeah, go ahead. You can go.
The term hawkers and peddlers is something that's been a part of Rhode Island law for a very long time. And what it really does is it refers to door-to-door salesmen. And this ordinance before was an attempt to update your hawkers and peddlers ordinance. And what it does is limit the application of the ordinance to somebody who's going door to door, who's not selling farm, garden produce, something like that, something that they themselves have produced. That's the first thing. Someone, say a sports league or students or things of that nature, fraternal organizations, they're not subject to this. This is for commercial people that are going to go door to door to try and sell either wares or services to Tiverton residents. They're required to obtain a badge, and also they charge the fee. It's less for a Tiverton resident, more for someone from out of town. There's requirements that they display the badge prominently, and there are penalties if someone does not do so. And the reason for that is there are complaints, not only here in Rhode Island, but across the country of people that are going door to door. They get a little bit aggressive, and that's just not something that works for a community such as Tiverton. This ordinance is an attempt to address that and update it. I'd be happy to answer any questions you might have on this proposed ordinance.
Was the other, I'm sorry, it's a public hearing.
I'd like to open this up to the public. Is there any comment from the public? Any comment from the public? Any comment from the public?
This is just door to doors.
Susan? Hi.
Susan's going to ask the question I was going to ask.
I don't have it in front of me, Susan Gill from Recreation. The purpose of this ordinance was to open up the beaches for commercial vendors. I don't know if that wasn't clear. It was presented the last session. There was supposed to be some revisions because we wanted to have some food and beverage vendors in this summer, so that was the purpose of it. Not anything to do with door-to-door, but it's to allow for at Grinnell's and Foglan's this summer and Grinnell's in the future to have like food trucks and beverage vendors. And we're hoping to get this resolved tonight so we can submit the RFP, get it out in time for Memorial Weekend, to have some people hired.
We just got this revised one.
Yeah, the question I have, I guess, is since we've eliminated most of the language from the original ordinance and established new language, does that kill the requirement or the prohibition on selling at the beaches?
This ordinance doesn't address that. I think you can just go ahead. The beach is a town beach?
Yes.
You can go ahead and license it. This is what this ordinance essentially does by eliminating that language.
Eliminates the prohibition?
It eliminates the prohibition on the public beaches and things of that nature. It allows you to just go ahead and license it the way, allow for the vendors the way you want, not subject to hawkers and peddlers.
All right, so I don't know. I get lost in the language. I want to make sure we're clear to advertise and hire, however it needs to be written.
Oh, I'm sorry, yes. This is on, sorry about that.
Oh, there it is, yeah. So,
Yeah.
That's in section 58-34.
Yeah, the issue was it couldn't be within 500 feet of recreation facilities or beaches, town beaches.
I'm sorry, I beg your pardon, yes, that language should be stricken. That's the first full paragraph on the second page of section 58-34. That would be paragraph 2. I beg your pardon.
okay.
So just scratch that completely?
Can I ask a question?
Just one second. Just scratch that completely, that's my guess. Go ahead, John.
I just want to make sure the original intent is upheld here. Our original intent was just to allow licensing for the beaches.
Right.
We graciously request that we still have the restriction on the parks and recreation areas.
Right.
Because currently, we have that 500-foot restriction from recreation areas. And I, for one, have had a tournament down at the town farm facility, and I did have one of the ice cream trucks that goes around town pull up alongside of the road and started pulling people away from my concession stand, where we generate revenue, over to his truck. So we certainly only want to change the restriction on the beaches only,
So may I
what the
make a-
Recreation Commission's intent was.
We have some language that's very similar to this it's the last three paragraphs of the original edit, which has that same language, no event shall, but then there are exceptions to that, and the two exceptions are by team leagues or organized youth groups with a prior approval of the Rec Commission, and then entities that have been awarded a bid or contracts by the town council following advice and recommendation from the Recreation Commission, which is what I think you had requested, that you'd like to have an opinion as to who would be vending at the beaches,
Right.
and then we would
want to screen
consider
them and then
that.
bring those recommendations to the council for approval.
I beg your pardon again, and just eliminate in that paragraph, any public beach area, nor. So that would include town recreations, say by team leagues. That would accommodate your concerns and accommodate your concerns if you just eliminate any public beach area nor.
We'd have to look.
I think that expands the scope slightly, and let's talk about that for a second. That would include anyone who might have a license for any purpose to just pull up on the beach.
That's not what we
And that's, I don't think, what we're looking for. We don't want food trucks
Right.
just pulling up. We want to
Control
just
screen.
limit the on the beach.
Right, okay.
by the recreation committee.
Yes.
Right, right.
That's right, by the,
It goes on to say, from the recreation activities,
yeah, but that's,
saying it should say that
But that,
procedures are approved by the recreation committee.
which is what I, just to,
yeah,
I mean, it's only really 1 and 1/2 sentences of additional language. And I think it would cover our bases, in addition to
so what are you suggesting?
that paragraph.
on this, please?
Yeah, just one second.
My suggestion is this paragraph right before section 5834, which begins in no event shall. That's the language we currently have. Just to include this in no event shall, this language on, I don't know, none of these are labeled or numbered, so it's hard to reference, but the document that we have attached to the agenda, attached to the B1, which is what it currently exists, and then some proposed changes. Just adopting this paragraph, this last paragraph here that begins in no event shall, in lieu of the paragraph that it starts in no event shall. It's almost exactly the same language, with the exception of just that last kind of written approval and recommendation by the Recreation Commission, which would prevent, I'm not saying that Grinnell's is going to become a food truck central, but it would at least limit the exposure to just any vendor popping up and selling or renting or doing whatever. You wanted to limit to wakeboarding or kayaks or whatever you saw fit, rather than taco trucks.
So the change to the paragraph in this one that was handed out tonight would be to substitute in this language that was attached.
That would be
That's
my
fine.
suggestion.
That accounting.
Okay.
Claudia?
Yeah, I just want to clarify this wording here, because, ice cream trucks, by the, according to last representative from the week, these ice cream trucks come into our fields and take away our business from the concession stand. It's always been that they were not allowed to come into the recreational areas. I want to make sure that they have it.
Because Claudia, that first paragraph, in no event shall the privilege of hawkers and peddlers licenses be exercised to any holder within 500 feet of any public beach nor any designated town recreation area. And then we list the 2 exceptions, with approval from the town council and a recommendation from the Recreation Commission, and the other one is just the team leagues having
Because
authorization.
usually it's written in the permit that the council approves. These vendors all have to come in for a permit.
That language is still the
And on that permit, it's stated that they should keep away from recreation areas.
That language is still the
We
same.
haven't changed that at all.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Anything else from the public before I close the hearing? The public's portion? No one else? Okay, the public portion of the hearing is closed. Council, any further discussion?
I have one item. Under 58-34, the license duration and fee. I really don't see a purpose here in having different fees for non-Tiverton residents and Tiverton residents. All we have here are people trying to make a buck. Whether they're from Tiverton or Florida, they really shouldn't make any difference at all. If I had my troubles, maybe a one-year fee of $40 would be fine. At least we'd have a name and address, a telephone number in case something went wrong and somebody had to be contacted. But I don't see any reason for anything more than that.
Any discussion from the council regarding that?
This goes on through the whole fee structure, doesn't it? It's not just these fees, it's pretty much consistent all those fees.
But in some cases, you're trying to give a benefit. For example, you want to save the beaches for residents. That makes sense. In this case, you got somebody driving an ice cream truck, or trying to make minimum wage, probably, coming from Fall River and New Bedford or Swansea. Is that really any different than somebody coming from North Tiverton and selling the same ice cream cone? I just don't see the relationship.
Well, what I would like to check into is to see one of our neighboring towns to see if there's a difference in non-residents or residents. Would Fall River charge us more to go in and sell an ice cream truck than would a truck from Fall River? And if they did, then I say we keep it the way it is. If they don't, then I'd say, okay, I'll go along with you.
I don't think we want to hold this up. I think
I don't want to hold it up either, but
Let me ask a question, because we're talking about, are these fees we currently charge, and is it bifurcated like this? No, see, these are new
We have
fees.
to do that fee resolution.
Yeah, I was gonna say, we
So it
don't
doesn't even
have
belong in here.
the fee resolution, so I'm just trying to look
Remember, we
for
have a
it.
resolution that removes.
Yeah.
That's how we do it now. So I would.
So do you want to just
Belongs to
create
Rock.
language in there that says something to the effect of license duration and fees set by town council
And
fee
then-
schedule? Is that the language we have currently in all of our
I think so.
fee resolution?
Yeah.
I think we do.
And then we can then check with Fall River and then readdress the fee.
I don't think you're going to see 24 of a truck coming into town. Or 22 of the trucks coming to Fall River.
All right,
Did you get that, Nancy?
so we're just gonna,
It's not really a motion, but I mean, I can make a motion.
we're gonna have to make a motion to approve this. Yeah.
I know that. But I didn't, I just,
With the
yeah.
exception of the fee.
Okay. So is it better to, and this is maybe legal counsel, is it better to just eliminate section 5834 and renumber, or is it better to just leave a blank and?
I eliminate and renumber,
Okay.
because I think it's going to solve what you say if it's in the fee, your fee
Okay.
schedule anyway.
We have a whole little paragraph to 30.
We have 230, section 34.
So that might fix itself. That fixes itself.
Yeah.
Okay. If the council's ready, I can make a motion. I move that we adopt the proposed ordinance amendments to Chapter 58, Article 2, peddlers and hawkers, with the following alterations. The insertion of the language previously discussed, and the elimination of the second, Section 5834, license duration and fee, and that fixes the numbering problem, so we don't have to renumber it. Hello?
I wish you wouldn't do that,
What?
because there is part to that.
Yeah, I was just going to say, that paragraph is
Leave it like
good.
that.
That makes sense. Just
Okay.
leave it in there. Because I need that other portion.
So leave that
All right.
portion as 34.
So eliminate the fee schedule in the second Section 5834, keep the paragraph, and renumber accordingly. Capiche? Beautiful.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? Motion's been made in second. All those in favor? Unanimous. Advertise public hearing, Sandy Farms Incorporated, Russ Smith Program Coordinator. We do have a letter from Sandy Farms withdrawing this request from Robin M. Fable. So Nancy, I would imagine that this is,
That's just on there because it was an advertised public hearing, and so we have to post.
and Sandy Farms has asked that we don't have that on there, so. All right. Advertise public hearings, town administrator approval of amendments to fees and fine resolution, including but not limited to recreation fees. Wojtek.
Madam President, it is an annual task of the administration to review the fines and fees of the town and make recommendations for their amendment, updating, etc. After comparison with other towns and a review of our policy objectives. The fines and fees resolution is a very lengthy document, and we're going to take it one piece at a time and continue the entire document probably over the course of several meetings. The chief area of focus this year is in the Recreation Department, or the Recreation Division, whatever you want to call it, Recreation Commission and all of its activities. So that it's not lost on anyone in the room, when the council returned from executive session, the conversation was about a very significant reorganization of the town's public safety functions, beginning with the fire department, but probably to include the police department. Because we've reached the judgment that regardless of what we do to trim a line item here and a line item there, the town's budget is an unsustainable set of financial assumptions. And so, as we unravel all of it, we have to find ways to save large sums of money. We also have to find a way to make sure that our programs are protected from the impulse to simply cut what you have in order to fund things that you may or may not have the courage to tackle. And in setting up the Recreation Commission's proposals, my understanding is the Commission went through and followed my request, which was look through all of your programs and begin to assess fees that are in line with the policies set by neighboring communities and within the world of recreation in general. Now, in some cases, and I think that the Commission chair and our recreation coordinator should have a seat and explain the Commission's process that it followed and its votes and how it got to these recommendations. Because the Commission process has to be respected and allowed to work. I personally don't want to take ownership of every single item in here. I think adults should pay more than children. That's just a fundamental thing. One principle that I did request that the Commission consider, and some people may think it's a distinction without a difference, but it's a matter of opinion, and I think the council should proceed to consider its own opinions and go forward. But I have many years of experience both as a recreational coach and as a competitive elite league coach. So I coach the same sport at both types of approaches. Our commitment as, call us the ambassadors, the emissaries, or the mentors in our respective sports is to the community as a whole. And I'm very proud of the fact that I'm associated with Little League and its assumption that every child, regardless of ability, should get on the field. So even a developmentally disabled child can play in the Challenger division if your town is big enough, and participate in a sport that they love, regardless of their ability. And I asked the Commission to pay special attention to that commitment that the recreational leagues have, and to draw the line of distinction whenever you cross the line and say, I am now going to restrict participation to a tryout situation and only select those kids with the greatest ability to play. Because at that point, it is no longer a broad-based activity that supports the whole town. It is an activity that only supports those who are chosen to play. However, this is complicated because every sport is organized differently. And I understand some of the tension in the room, some of the arguments in the room, because they're valid. Little League does not have an elite division. If kids want to play elite baseball, they play in the American Athletic Union, AAU, or other club teams. Independent Baseball League, we have lots of places where they can do that. And I think the way it came about in the world of soccer, and I'm not going to tell the whole history of the sport, but it wasn't the same sport. So it was a startup, and the same organization houses both the recreational open approach as well as the competitive approach. So in thinking through, it's very important to say this. This is a proposed fee schedule. It can be amended, it can be changed. Compromise can be worked out. What is the ultimate goal? The ultimate goal is to raise a little bit of money from the folks who use the field. And my ultimate goal would be to put it into a restricting account so that the recreational activities of the town are not jeopardized by the politics of the town. And if you believe in sports, that's what you want to see. Don't let a budget cutter, budget maven come in and devastate your budget to the point where you have to slow down any spending on recreation. To that end, we will always subsidize recreation. There will always be activities in the town that subsidize recreation. We fill and grade the parking lots at Town Farm. We moved equipment around at no expense to the league. We go down there and the contract, we bundle our contract for mowing services with all the other town buildings to try to depress the price. A lot of the things that we do support the entire sports community in town. So that commitment will continue. But what I'd really like to see, and what I respectfully request, the leagues have some open mind to helping us support the fields themselves, because one of the first things that someone who doesn't understand how important this is to the life of a kid, the first thing they say is, what do you need the lime, what do you need the fertilizer for, we can go 1 year without it, da-da-da, 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 and before you know it, your fields are crap, and nobody wants to play on them, and they pose a danger to the kids. We do things in this town that most other towns don't do. We roll our fields. And we're actually spending the money with a qualified turf professional to take care of it. I'd like to see that continue. So I would just ask everybody involved, let's try to work together to find a way that that will be assured going into the future. And we don't end up cutting this because it's a safe and easy thing to cut for $100,000 in the budget. Having said that, I don't know where the commission chair and the see, both Keith and Susan are here. There's a whole schedule here that they should display.
What, I haven't opened it up to the public yet.
So we take
So,
recreation
We're just going to take recreation individually.
I think it's going to take you,
So we'll just do the recreation portion of it today. Okay.
and my goal for next meeting, just so you know for scheduling, is all those things that probably won't change, because they're either established in state law or very similar to other towns. We'll cut right through all that stuff next meeting.
So I'm going to open it up to the public right now.
It's in the,
Yeah. Susan, would you like to add anything to this? Yes, please.
Oh, okay, I got it screwed up. Okay. Thank you.
Keith Corey is our Recreation Coordinator. I'm Chairman of Recreation Commission. I figured we could do is start with the beaches. Those are a little easier and briefer. We've been instructed still that Grinnell's will remain closed through the summer, so we budgeted in our staffing only for Fogland. We are continuing our policy of not charging town residents, so there will be still no fee for that. For residents, for non-residents, for weekdays, we're asking for $10, which it was last year. For weekends and holidays, last year it was 20. We were decreasing it to 15 this year, with the idea that with Grinnell's being closed, that would help a little bit. And also the fact that we were not going to offer a season pass this year. We wanted to try that. It's something we're trying to see how that will work. We felt in the past that $100 for an entire season was not a money-making operation for the town. Basically, in a week and a half, then they had the rest of the summer to use our beaches for free. And the idea is, again, that it's non-residents using our beaches. So we're going to eliminate that. And then we also added this year motorcycles as $5 a day. We did have RVs and campers on there in the past. Apparently that's not a high use, and we decided not to discriminate any longer. It wasn't necessary. A vehicle is a vehicle. So that's where we came up with those. The new recreation equipment rental license, that, I don't know if you want to call it something else, that was the fee we were going to attach to the kayak and paddleboard people, that contract, so that when they came in, they would pay a fee or get a license. So that's the one, we kind of looked at what other things were being charged in town and felt that that was in line with the other fees. Then the summer camps, the restructuring of it from the 5 hours a day to, what is that, 9 hours a day total for 7 weeks. This is a bit of a sticker shock, but we felt that it was something that we could offer to a lot of the working parents in this community, which is a group that hadn't been reached when it was running from 9:30 to 2:30. So the camp will be offered, it'll be much more structured. It'll be from basically 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. The 9 to 4, which is the basic camp day, will be $100 per week. And then the hour before and the hour after will be an additional $10 on each side if people need that. But what we'd like to do is offer to any siblings that would be $75 a week charge, so they do get a bit of break there. And then if we run when we run our additional sports camps, if one of a child that's participating in the summer camp wants to also do that, we didn't feel we could pull money from the independent contractor. So we would credit them basically a $50 fee for that week, since they'd only be there half-time. But that way, if they wanted to break up their 7-week cycle, like doing the lacrosse camp or the cooking class, it could encourage them and hopefully make it still reasonably affordable to parents to do that. And that's what we came up with. We're asking that they would sign up for the entire 7 weeks so that we can staff appropriately. We can't do week to week, so it would be, that's how we wanted to structure it. So those were those two areas, and we hope that they're both successful for the town and for the people that it serves. So I'm going to defer to Keith to talk about the field use fees. He's very experienced in all areas of it that I am not. And first of all, we've been discussing field use fees for the last year, off and on. It's a difficult subject, but we felt that the $40,000 that we're currently budgeted really is not what we're actually spending on the fields, and the fact that they've been neglected off and on over the years just kind of reinforces the fact that it's not enough money. The idea to institute field fees is not so that we can put it in our pockets, it's to put it back into the fields, to improve the fields. I mean, that's obviously the ultimate goal, is to get these fields better, as well as the buildings, the facilities. And last week, we discussed these at length. We were unanimous in agreement for these fees that we proposed, and that's what we're bringing to you tonight. It's something that our commission approved, debated, and are now presenting to you to decide. So,
as Susan said, a lot of time has gone into trying to figure out what was the best way to approach charging fees for the use of the fields. The biggest issue is that we're not guaranteed that the money that comes in is actually going to end up going into the fields. And I think that's probably the issue with a lot of the people behind me at this point, is that if they're going to be charged for using the fields over and above what they feel are already being taxed, they'd like to know that that money is going to go into the upkeep of the field and improvements and such. So what we've done is we have tried to pull something together that is going to allow the recreation level kids, the ones who are very into sport and trying to have fun and a way to get out of the house and stop watching television. We tried to approach it where we weren't going to be charging them at all. The problem with approaching it that way is that we then get into a situation where in order to get any money, we have to charge the next level up. And we have to actually charge them probably at a higher rate than we'd like to, because we are letting the basic recreation people come in and use the fields for no extra cost. And because we've had to approach it that way in order to try to keep all the recreation department offerings in town, the soccers, the softballs, the baseballs, trying to keep them happy with what we were proposing, we end up with a fee such as a $25 an hour usage for competitive teams. Now, that's a huge jump from zero for these programs, and we understand there's some sticker shock. However, it is nowhere near what other towns around Tiverton and Rhode Island and Massachusetts are charging for their field usage. And although it's not, again, it's not something that we as a Recreation Commission want to be doing, but it's necessary in order for us to keep those fields safe and to keep them properly groomed and to provide the best possible opportunity for the youth and adults of this town to have an adequate site for recreation. So what we've come up with was again a $25 per hour per field usage for teams that want to practice and play on those fields that are competitive level, which is teams that are traveling outside of Tiverton to play. And then we've looked at a fee schedule for tournaments that want to use our fields. Again, they're extremely low compared to what other towns are charging. However, there are a bit of a sticker shock for the people that are here tonight over what they've been paying in the past, which is next to nothing. Now, we certainly agree that these baseball and softball and soccer have been helping out as much as they can in the past in taking care of the fields and helping with the building and upkeep of the different snack shops and such that we have. They are very progressive in helping us to try to put the best product out there that we can for the students and youth of this town. However, it's really not enough. Okay, we really need to be more proactive in the upkeep, in the care of the fields, and developing of more fields if at all possible. And so what we're doing is we're trying to raise the funds in order to be able to do that. So, are there any questions on it?
I'm going to open it up to, wait a minute. Oh, yeah, you are on the recreation, I'm sorry, John.
I'm going to be very frank. As far as the $25 per hour field fee and the adult league fee of $250 for a 10-week season, I think my commission made a mistake. I think if you, stepping back and looking at the big picture, it puts an undue burden on a specific youth organization in this town. Let me back up a little bit and talk about fees that other towns charge. The only town that charges fees around us is Barrington. Barrington is the only one that has a usage fee for their youth sports. The fees, I believe, that Keith may be referring to are truly competitive leagues, AAU soccer, these big travel teams that charge their kids anywhere from $1,500 to $3,000 per year to play. Those are the leagues that are generating tens of thousands of dollars in revenue are the ones paying to play on fields. We have none of those here in Tiverton. We have none of those teams coming here. They would not play on our fields. Our fields have been neglected. Okay, the largest portion of the maintenance budget is grass cutting, and that covers grass cutting. It doesn't include fertilizer, lime, rolling. All of that comes out of little minuscule $10,000, $12,000 combined line items in the recreation's budget. We've got a line item for $6,500, a line item for $5,000, and I believe another line item for around $5,000. So that's what we've been trying to maintain these fields with, besides grass cutting. So these big fees that other towns are charging, they're charging them to a different type of team and different type of league than we have here coming and playing in Tiverton. All the teams travel. But I really think we made a mistake in that $25 per hour and the adult league at $250 for a 10-week season. You know, we would be asking a youth league that may have 15, 20 teams playing, 3, 4, 5 home games per season we're talking $8,000-$9,000 we want from them to go into the general fund, and then we as a recreation commission go and beg for some money back from the budget committee and from the taxpayers. So I really have to admit, I think we made a mistake on those two fees, the $25 per hour per field. And that's just games. If we start charging for practice,
It isn't practice, though. That's what I understood. It's just games. I don't want anybody to think this is practice.
It's okay. But I think if we really look at the leagues that we have in town, first of all, I think the town-owned facilities, the fields, just like any other town-owned facility, the burden of maintaining that facility should be spread across the entire tax base, like this town hall, this school, the library. We've had generations of Tiverton residents using these fields, and these fields and these recreation facilities are open to the public. They're there for the entire tax base to use. So my personal opinion, I believe that our facilities, the burden of maintaining our facilities in this town, all facilities, the burden should be spread across the entire tax base. That's a personal opinion.
Thank you, John.
And as far as looking at this, if you step back, and if this council took a look at the leagues in town, how many teams they have, how many hours they play on the fields, and what the cost of maintaining the fields are, looking at this, we will be putting an undue burden and an unfair burden on our soccer league. Their field is the least expensive to maintain. Other than this year, we put some significant money into refurbishing that field, and that was only due to neglect. That's why we had to put the money into there. The soccer field that is currently used by the Tiverton Youth Soccer can be, the quotes, the estimates have been given to us in the past. It can be maintained, not grass cutting, but maintained as far as fertilizer and what it needs to stay healthy, $1,500 a year. And we're going to ask that organization to pay us $8,000 a year and up. I think we made a mistake, and I think currently, as it's stated here, it's unfair.
Thank you. John.
Yes.
You started discussing the adult leagues, but you didn't finish the thought.
Oh, the adult league, currently, the way we've got the line item here is $250. That's unlimited games for 10 weeks.
Under the lights.
What's that?
Under the lights.
They have a Sunday, they play...
So you would pay like that, or you don't?
No, I don't. I mean, that basically, they'd be paying $25 a week, and they'd have access to the place, be able to play unlimited games there. There's no hourly, it's just a 10-week season for $250. It's $25 a week for adults.
My only point in that...
And many of those adults are not Tiverton taxpayers.
My only point in asking is...
That's not what it says.
That's $250 per team, right?
Per team. Okay, well, that has to be put on here.
All right,
I think I remember every...
Okay, all right. I don't want to use the gavel too much tonight.
I was just trying to make a simple factual point.
Okay, but it's good to you, I stand corrected.
Because I'm not talking about what you're talking about. I'm talking about lights. And leagues that use lights should pay more than anyone else because the cost of turning that many floodlight bulbs, you can buy all the bulbs you want. We never ever paid for the cost of electricity and have the lights on until 10 o'clock every weekend night. We'll never catch up. That's my only point, is that I want the council to have the best available information. Lights are expensive, so you add the usage time plus the cost of turning the lights on. That's all. So you started the point about adult leagues, and I would point out adult leagues use lights more than anyone else in town.
Yes, absolutely. They're the only ones that will be using the lights. And we spoke about a lot in that meeting, and I did not remember that fee was per team.
And now we've made that notation, so...
Yeah.
That's okay.
I really do want to open this up to...
This is a local town that charges $40 per recreation player per season. That means a 6-year-old playing soccer is paying $40 to to the town upkeep of the fields per season.
What town is that?
There are at least 20
Okay, please.
in the state of Rhode Island that are charging fees. John's information was incorrect.
Okay.
Okay,
Chief, excuse me, at our meeting, the only town that was presented to us that charged a fee was Barrington. We didn't have this information at the meeting, Chief.
John,
Address the chair.
none of us, anyone. At this point, I'd like to open the public hearing, but please try to respect each other.
We're going to give them a time limit, because I'm
Yeah, I know, well, I am just, I was thinking about doing it for a half hour. Do not, if you have anything more to say to the person in front of you, a different thing, then please come up. But I'm not going to sit here and have repetitiveness. The lady in the front that asked to speak, did she leave? Okay. Is that all right with the rest of you? We'll go to Barry and, all right.
Evaluate.
And we evaluate what's going on. All right, the first person, please.
And just state your name for the record.
Carlos Estevez, and your address? 2 Connecticut. I just want to make a little point about Barrington. Barrington charges what they charge because they pay for their coaches. We are all volunteers. So we shouldn't have to, volunteers as parents, have to pay an extra fee to use our own town fields. Barrington, the town, that youth league is paying for their coaches. Thank you.
Soccer?
Teach soccer, yes. They teach soccer. About baseball. Not involved with baseball right now, but about Barrington and baseball. Barrington coaches are paid, soccer coaches are paid to teach their kids.
Thank you.
I just again like to address some of the things that Keith has mentioned. There are certain levels of soccer, okay? There are recreational soccer, there's competitive soccer, and there's what we call competitive soccer, okay? These people that are paying these fees and renting these fields are competitive soccer teams that have competitive teams that are not from Tiverton, from other, we have 1 or 2 other kids from Tiverton that are not from Tiverton. These clubs are made of for-profit organizations that they charge these kids exactly $1,500 to over $3,000 to play soccer. So they then pay the towns. They then, obviously, if you're going to sit there and make money, the towns want money to use their fields. That is completely understandable and acceptable to me. As a volunteer and all the time that I spend, I don't believe that the time that we're donating to these kids should be taking money from these parents and families. It's just another way to grab money because there's no tax base. Please do not go after the children. That's all I ask. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, my name's Catherine Pappen. I reside at 61 Tiverton. I also brought a player here. Her name is Cassie. Cassie, just please state your name and address.
Cassie Tabor, I think it's 375 South Christopher Road.
All right, that's close enough.
I just want to note that I have players in soccer and baseball. Cassie's not my child, but she's played recreation and competitive. The difference is really that competitive travels. Recreation believes that all players play, and so does competitive. There's tryouts only to place these children on teams. Nobody is turned down. Also, like everyone else has stated, we have significantly lower cost because we, are all volunteers. We do not pay our coaches like other towns, and we do not have the premier level. We just strictly have a travel team. With that being said, I have looked into what the recreation is saying they need to spend on fixing all of the areas. We don't need those bathrooms. We rent our own porta potties. We don't care about those stupid buildings that are outdated. Rip them down, please. We just want our children to be able to play on a playable field.
Thank you. Thank you, Cassie. Anyone else from the public?
How's it going? Jeff Soa, Xandra Circle. I actually, I'm also a baseball coach and a soccer coach here in Tiverton. And during the day when I'm not coaching, I'm a lawyer. So I actually have a lot of familiarity with this process and the law. I know Tony, actually, dressed down today. The concern that I have is this proposed fee schedule is very, there's no real definitions in this document. And it appears to me, from what I've heard, that soccer is being singled out as the sport that's being charged for this field use. So, in my mind, this is a clear case of a violation of equal protection. You cannot selectively enforce against certain groups. And in this case, that's exactly what's going on. So I sent a letter earlier today, and I want to be clear that this council's on notice of that concern. So, thank you.
Anyone else from the public?
Hi, I'm Kelly Levesque, 114 Teaberry Drive. Can I just ask for a brief clarification from either you guys or Mr. Wojcik? Are you specifically gearing this towards soccer, or are you also gearing it towards the All-Star League for baseball? And obviously football, because they do end up at Booker Marsh Field under the lights once it gets too dark to practice at the middle school.
Yeah, I think it's very important to note that we're talking specifically about fields, first of all. There are any number of ways to draw a distinction between different groups of people. Maybe you have everybody pay and split it equally and keep it very, very low. One principle that you could use is, do the kids try out or not? Is it a limited focus or not? And baseball is organized differently from soccer. So what you've got in the final analysis, when you take a step back from all of this and say, well, who will actually end up paying? You have only one league that's organized in a way where both recreation and competitive are housed in the same organizational unit. So yeah, they get hit. So we don't have an AAU club in Tiverton. I don't know what the closest one is. I'm going to guess it's the Bulldogs out of East Bay, Warren, Bristol. But I'm not sure that, so I guess on second notice or second review, when you use that principle, do the kids try out or not, you may not get to the solution you're looking to get to. I would back up and say the most important principle is to try to give the recreation community in this town a mechanism to fund the maintenance of the facilities that they use that is not subject to the vagaries of town budget decisions. So my personal view is, I've said it earlier before, I'd like to see fees charged, but I'd also like to see it go to a restricted line account, so that the only way the money is used is for its purpose from the funding source, which is the people who play sports. I hope you appreciate this. As a coach, the one thing that I violently oppose is mixing politics with what goes on with the kids. It's not about whose parents are most popular or who talks the most in my ear, who gets playing time on the field. We keep politics away from our kids in sports. And in 1 year of being your administrator here, the budget process in this town is incredibly political. And what it's going to do is it's going to hurt people who can't defend themselves, because we're going to start slashing funds because we're ideologically motivated to do so without thinking through the implications of those decisions. Because in a pecking order, we have to run the ambulances and we have to run police cars. And if we get to the point where we can't afford to do those things without taking the money out of recreation, that day could come. It's not now. We're not going to make that decision tomorrow. I'm trying to do everything I can to reorganize those departments, save the money, so that we can continue to fund recreation at a respectable level. But I think we all have to recognize, and other communities, not necessarily in Rhode Island, but around the country, parks is an enterprise fund, because parks and recreation often raise sufficient funds from their own activities to support what they do. And it becomes a self-perpetuating beneficial program for the people of the town. And if you were to cut it, it would have no effect on taxes, because you raise almost as much as you spend. So it's a net zero. That's the goal. It'll take several years to get there, but we have to take steps. So this conversation about, is the Recreation community willing to participate in a funding program for its fields, is a threshold and necessary conversation.
Can I just say one more thing? So I do think that language needs to be looked at. There is, at the end of the recreation baseball season, a selection process by coaches, and they do go on to an elite team. It's not AAU, but they do have an all-star program, just as competitive would, where they travel to other teams. So you need to look at your language to make sure that not only soccer is looked at, but baseball, and then eventually football as they move out to Booga Marsh.
It's a very fair comment, and for those of us who coach in that system, it is troubling that we stop baseball for all the kids because we are participating in Williamsburg's system. And we have to take everybody off the field who wants to play all summer, and they can't, because we have our all-stars on the field. But, so, point is well taken.
Thank you.
You already,
I know, I just want to clarify one thing on the tryouts, okay? We don't have necessarily tryouts. We have 5 levels of soccer in competitive. It is travel. It's not necessarily competitive. The tryouts we have are for team placement evaluations. Kids are, we have kids that have physical disabilities that play on teams, okay? Everyone plays. There's this misconception that it's not like an AAU team where you have 20 kids come, you take 12. It's not like that. There's A, B, C, D, E, and we don't even call them that. We call them colors so that no one's offended. It's gold, blue, silver, green. It's about the kids, not about competitive soccer.
Can you just stay there a moment, and Madam President, might I ask a question?
Yes.
Because I don't have children, and it's been 25 years since I sat the bench for youth soccer.
As many of us have, yeah.
So what is the structure of youth soccer in Tiverton? When I was a kid, it used to be the Tiverton Youth Soccer. Is that still structural?
We are still completely and only Tiverton Youth Soccer.
Okay. So there are levels to that, then?
Yep, just 2. We only have 2.
Just give me an idea.
We have what happens is we have a fall recreational soccer program that everyone is allowed to play in, no matter what. We try to sign up, that's our base year, it's in the fall. We also, at that time, have a fall travel season that goes on. We have approximately 200 people that play in that league, children that play in that league as well. And they play in recreational soccer as well. So they play in both leagues because they love soccer and they want to play. We then have tryouts or evaluations for new players that want to get on teams. And then we play indoor soccer, where we have to go and play. So these teams start playing indoor soccer year-round. We have to pay a fee for that. That's part of our fees that are included for that, a separate fee for competitive players. Then in the spring, the only season we have is a travel team season. So that, again, is all the teams that are established in the fall travel all the way through the year, together indoor in spring, and then we add new teams in the spring. I just last night had 2 parents call me up and said, my son would, and my wife's here and can tell you, they called me up an hour, they said, my son didn't try out, I know, but he really wants to play spring soccer, do you have a spot on a team? Within 2 hours, I got that kid on the team, he's on a team, and he went to practice tonight, okay? So it's not about exclusion. And again, we're a non-profit organization. All these monies, our fees are minimal compared to some of the area towns, and that money goes back into the fields, goes back to the kids, soccer goals, things that we need. We spend it on the kids. It's not about that. And we've given, as Matt mentioned, we pay for the fertilizer. We've done things on our own. We have parents come in and clear brush, bring their own equipment in, so.
Thank you.
But I just want to clarify that.
Keith and Susan, I have a follow-up question. Is the intention, and I don't want anybody to think that the intention of this exercise is to single out soccer or any team in particular, and the way we look at this is not necessarily, okay, what are we going to charge soccer, what are we going to charge baseball? There's a threshold that we are looking at, and I want to understand a little bit better what that is from the Recreation Commission. What is the ultimate goal of the threshold? It's not just travel teams necessarily. That's not a threshold that tells us anything other than they travel. Is
It
it
is, though.
exclusivity? Is that the key word?
Well, I guess, when I started thinking about it last year, I was looking at it as the people anybody that used the fields would pay. And I used one town as the prototype. They charged $10 per child for their primary season. Because we first started out talking about hourly, and I go, that just seems like it gets really complicated and really messy in a hurry. And I like the idea of, like, when they signed up to register, they pay, an additional fee to the town, and then that would go towards, the maintenance of the fields. And I wasn't discriminating against any sport. I don't have any kids in the town anymore that do any of the sports. I don't have a dog in this fight. I don't have a preference. But I think, our goal is to support the recreational fields and facilities of the town. It's not to pick on one or the other.
Sure.
I've been told that soccer has like 700 kids in the fall, 300 in the spring. Little League has like 300 kids in the spring. I'm not sure how many in the fall. And we're talking over 1,000 kids. And I kept thinking, if we exclude them, we exclude the bulk of the source of revenue for the town. And then I'd heard that the pesky tournament had 16 teams last summer, and only one was from Tiverton. So it's like 15 teams played on our fields at Town Farm for, a 3-day weekend, and we get the garbage to clean up, and we get no money. And it just seemed like a real unbalanced and an unwise way to run town facilities, especially in this economic climate. What we're working to do with the beaches and with our summer programs is make them self-sufficient. I don't know if we could get to $40,000 or $50,000 of revenue by, imposing fees. I think that's a bit lofty, but I think you have to make the effort. And and I think what we've done is, because this isn't my area, is I would rely on Keith, who's worked in recreation for 20 years. What do you see? What do you know? Can you give us guidance? And what's reasonable and what's fair?
Right.
But it's certainly not discriminatory.
So we can just keep talking about the threshold later, but Madam President, I just wanted to clarify those two things because I really didn't, needed to understand.
When we worked on this, we were talking about softball, baseball, soccer, football, anybody that was using the fields. And as Susan said, our initial thought and the easiest way to make this work is that everybody that uses the field gets charged. And realistically, I went through the numbers, and we have dealt with this a lot. I would like to charge 25 cents per child per opportunity of using the field. So for recreational soccer, we'd be looking at a 10-week season where they play once a week and they practice once a week. We'd be asking for $5 for any kid that wants to play recreational. That money would go towards the upkeep of the field. That would address a lot of the issue. Everybody would be paying the same small amount of money. We wouldn't have to ask if it's competitive. We wouldn't have to compare apples and oranges. It wouldn't be about one sport or another sport. Everybody who's using the field would be charged a flat, low rate for every time that they use the field. It's very simple. Beginning of the season, you give us your schedule of your games and your practices, and based on that, you would be charged on the number of student athletes that you have, or what the fee would be.
But that's not what you're proposing here with us tonight.
That's what we tried to work out with the different organizations. That's what we were looking at, and everybody fought it. Everybody was fighting that, saying that they didn't want to pay anything, that everything was being covered by their taxes. We cannot keep up the fields with the money that we are receiving from the town to cut the grass and to keep the upkeep as it should be. What we're doing is every 3 or 4 years we throw a bunch of money at it to try to fix what's been wrecked. Nothing is being done proactively. Matt's been trying to get that program started for that, but the funds aren't there. And so we're asking for help with the funds.
I didn't want to interrupt the hearing, but thank you.
Jeff Regal, 205 Tiverton Drive. If I could just ask, with the way this is proposed, what sports would be affected by this proposal? Is that, from everything I've heard, the only sport that's being affected by this would be competitive soccer? Is that?
Well, anyone that would have a tournament or...
recreation.
Yeah, I'm talking about town teams. So Tiverton Youth Soccer is part of the town of Tiverton. So we're not talking about teams coming from outside to utilize our fields. What team association or what town association is being affected by this proposal?
As far as I can see, it's just soccer. Am I right?
Also softball team.
It's
Also a softball team that would fall under this.
a softball, youth,
Or youth softball.
And it's part of
The adult team that would...
well, right, but he's talking children, I think.
There's a proposal for a number of things, and if we want to talk about just children, let's specify just children, but also adults, even if you are a town resident, would be charged.
Right.
So with that, with what the gentleman just said, that seems like it would be the only fair and reasonable. I understand we're trying to raise funds to keep up the maintenance of the fields, but to allow one section of one town association to be responsible for funding this, for all of the other associations and all the other players to have the benefit from that, does not quite seem fair. I think, to your point, having one fee for every person, every player, regardless of the association they're with, to be responsible for part of that, and if it's a $5 fee per player, I think that's reasonable. The way we're doing it now, the way you have it proposed, it's one league that's going to be funding the fields for every other association to use, with the exception of some of the adult leagues. Doesn't quite seem fair, and I'm sure there's a better way we can go about it. Thank you.
Kelly Levesque, 114 Tiverton Drive. One more thing. I did come in today and pull the year-to-date records for the recreation accounts from downstairs in the treasurer's office. If you do take a chance to look at them, I believe that you'll see that the majority of funding, the majority of spending that the Recreation Commission is doing right now goes towards baseball and softball fields, which are the exact people, and I'll give you a quick estimate just off the top of my head. Let's say it's 75% baseball, softball, it's 25% soccer. So you're looking at charging a group of individuals that really aren't using or creating the largest portion of the monies that you need. So there needs to be some kind of way, equitably, that you split this. You've already said numbers. You're saying you have 300 kids in baseball and 600 kids in soccer. I don't think that, that number of soccer kids should really be supporting baseball and softball fields. And unfortunately, if we go back year after year, the reason that we're in this position right now is because most of the recreation funds for the past number of years have been funneled directly to baseball and softball, and soccer has been told over and over again that there was no monies to maintain their fields, when in actuality there was. It was just being funneled into the baseball and softball side.
That doesn't include, I was going to say, that doesn't include capital expenditures, which are spending
Well, it's an important fact, so we just so everybody understands. I just have to take a step back and say, I think comments that put one sport against another are extremely unfortunate. The actual economics and requirements for the different fields are different. We did spend over $12,000 this year in the capital account to restore the soccer field. And we're not going to stop. And the important thing, and everybody understands, my personal commitment as administrator is to make sure that those funds are not taken from recreation and used for other purposes. If we're going to fix a field, then let's fix the field. And leave the fund in the account so that you can do that. And if you're not finished, if the sod hasn't taken, if the seeds haven't fully taken root, and the field isn't ready, then don't reopen the field for the sake of pleasing everybody. Make sure that it's actually fixed. And I think when you add back that capital expenditure for the main soccer field, you're going to get more than equality. We just don't have $12,000 in the account for of the other activities.
Carlos Estevez again, 372 Canada Street. Just to back up here to where towns charge for their fields. I have family who plays in Fall River who pay more than what our children do to play here. Fall River in the last 3 years have built, let me stop myself, have built one field, okay, over $2 million, $3 million at Berlin Park, all turf, beautiful stuff. They are in the process to finish, to complete, by the end of this year, another field, all turf, Father Travassos Park. They have not asked for one dime from their players to pay for those fields. Granted, they went after grants to pay for these fields. They have city people who wrote these grants. Now, I am looking at, I'm sure, a lot of intelligent people in this room, most of them sitting in front of me. Why haven't we put somebody to write a grant to help these fields out, be it baseball, be it soccer, be it football, be it whatever it is? We're looking for $1 here, $1 there to keep up a field. Why don't we just stretch it out and go after the big picture? You want to charge children, I'm going to say children, even though the parents pay, but it's the children that are paying, to fix a couple of grand here and there, when it can be solved in the long run in a different way.
Yeah. The town needs another soccer field. The town applied poorly, okay? It was a competitive grant. There's all kinds of changes around here. One of them is stemming in some part from my dissatisfaction with the way that grant application was prepared. All you have to do is compare Little Compton's to ours and understand why we didn't get that grant, even with the donation of the land. All right, it has to be thought through and professionally prepared for the competition that it's entering against other towns that have already done the private fundraising and have a commitment from the town, not just the land and an idea, especially if that land is already occupied by a septic system. So one of the things we have to do, and it's very actively being followed right now, is get into the next round of grant funding, be very professional, very prepared for that competition, set aside necessary funds, but overall demonstrate the commitment as a community to support the activity.
Well, I, as a parent, taxpayer, and a coach, and the league board member, would like to see this town put forward a little more strength behind these grant writings. Because I think we can all admit that that would solve the problem for everybody. But again, and I am going to say, not just for soccer, I am a baseball coach, Matt knows that. I've done baseball, not in town, out of town. Every sport's great. Kids need to get out of the house, they need to play. They need a place to play. Okay? Yes, they need a nice field to play on and whatnot. But again, to nitpick $1 here, 5 from there, and 10 from there, when we all know, fix it with the with the big picture. Go after this grant. Thank you.
I have a comment on the grants. Most of those grants come with a match. So you're not getting just a grant. You have to match whatever the grant is.
Just want to add one more thing before the time is up, if I could.
That time's not very, not strict. Oh, no one ever listens to me like this. But
I just wanted to put that out there, that, most of these grants that are out there come with a match. And, where do we get the match from?
The town's match in kind would have been sufficient to win the day. It's just the way it was presented was not very persuasive, I'm afraid to say.
I just want to go on record that when, on our last meeting, we were discussing these fees, I did propose starting off with just a head count fee per child, but it was not accepted, a motion was not accepted, so that was not voted on. But if we can get a restricted account, and if we need to pull the minutes, we can, Keith. But I did propose that we start off small, less painful to the leagues, and I did want to consider a head count fee instead of a larger fee, but it was not accepted. And if we can get a restricted account where the money is available, I think you get a lot of support for that.
Well, that's what I was just going to say. We're kind of putting the cart before the horse here.
Right.
Because I think people would feel that this was a lot more attractive if we could guarantee that we had a resolution where that money would go into a restricted account to pay for these field maintenances. Because right now, whatever we charge is just going to go in the general fund. And it's a vote of the taxpayer where that money goes. So if they decide not to put it in recreation, we'll go there. And we had talked at the recreation committee meeting a few months back, the resolution should be done first. And then...
For the account.
For the account.
account.
Make it restricted, get a fee, and then we know, and I think everyone would feel much better if they knew their money was going into a restricted account that just pays for those fields.
Absolutely.
That's just my opinion,
Yep,
but...
yep. And on Dave's point, Dave, we're trying. I do have a group together. We are organizing, we are laying out a plan, keeping in contact with the Recreation Commission, with the town administrator, with the Stonebridge Water Department who donated the land. And we are trying, we are going to open up a restricted account. We do have permission to do that for that new recreation facility. There are some money sitting on the sidelines, not a lot, but, maybe about $15,000 sitting on the sidelines to go into that account as soon as it's open, and we'll try to build from there. So we are trying. Thank you.
There are organizations out there also that would contribute to soccer programs, correct?
I want to get that restricted account so people who donate know it's safe and secure.
Well, you can do that in a different way.
With the Treasurer's Department, we've got that in the works, so we are trying. Hopefully, we'll have some matching funds soon.
Okay, wait a minute, there's other conversations. Okay, anyone else from the public would like to speak? I'll let it go 10 more minutes if anyone else would. No? Anyone else would like to speak? Anyone else would like to speak? Okay, I'm going to close the open session, the public session. Mr. Souza?
Well, I just want to first say I've had it about up to here with fees, all right? My trash bags, everything else, when you go to the beach, you got to pay to park. I've had it up to here. And as far as our budget committee and their process, it's not only a process to appropriate, but to, formulate a budget, but they also have to look at how much the town can afford. We're in a town where foreclosures are growing every day. So I can understand what people are apprehensive when they want to say, well, now you're going to charge me to do this. It's just my personal opinion, and I won't be voting for any fees. And it's just my personal opinion that if people are not happy with our ball fields that have kids in soccer, they think the field should be better, you need to do like it used to be in this town. Get up there, do some fundraising, have some events. I don't care. Go out and sell popcorn in cans and raise some money for the fields. And a lot of it's done already, as it was mentioned, with the baseball things. And the bottom line is, I know we want to raise more revenue in town. And we say, well, it's going to. I see this money doing just like the mooring fees. We're going to raise the mooring fees. It's going to go in. There's going to be no continued service. I just can't vote for this. I just think that it needs to be that we go before the budget committee, ask for an appropriation, get what we can, and then the parents are going to have to volunteer and pick up the rest. It's going on for years in this town.
But then we'll go in front of the budget committee, they will be totally convinced of what we say, they will make the appropriation, and someone else from the outside, and has it come to one meeting, that knows nothing about the function of this town.
That's the process we're following, I think.
Well, but that's it, Joe. Then that person can come and say, no money for recreation, no money, but they can't. They can't.
They could.
Anybody could do anything.
No.
I didn't think people would vote for what they voted for last year, and I was
did,
astonished.
because people are passed out. I mean, people are voting their pocketbooks.
Okay, we're off the subject.
Yeah, we are.
Well, we're not off the subject, and the bottom line
Yeah,
is...
but the bottom line is the budget committee does not set the budget.
No.
They try to.
They make recommendations to the town.
Right, and any citizen can come forward with a budget that doesn't make sense. Dave, go ahead.
Well, I just want all those people that came forward and spoke tonight. When I looked at this item on the agenda, I had soccer was the last thing on my mind. I thought it was about baseball, to tell you the truth. Because I remember going back 30 years ago, playing in the scholarship league in Fall River, and we paid $250 back then per team to play under the lights and whatever we had to do and pay for the maintenance of the field. And then we had a guy going around with a tin can collecting money, for people who were watching the ball game. So I didn't think that was a ridiculous price, especially nowadays. Someone made a comment, I think it was John, about teams won't come here to play because of our fields. I think that's disappointing. I would want teams to come here. I would want some competitive teams. I'm sure we have competitive soccer.
We don't have enough fields
I
to
would refer
have
to
more
premier
people.
teams, I'm sorry.
Premier teams. But, I mean, that's where you make your money.
We don't have the space, though. We only have a couple of fields.
Well, Joe, we're never going to get the space if we don't do something.
Small town.
It's not a small town anymore. It's not a small town.
Mr. Lambert?
I just had a couple of comments, and it really addresses this issue that, we're being unfair to one group or one sport. I don't know how I'm going to vote on this, but as you can imagine, your committee, your recreational committee and the town council, I'm happy to see these issues come up, believe me. We really have in this town a long history of rather uneven services. Some of you may be getting town water. I don't. Some of you don't. Some of you may have sewers. Others don't. Some of you may have a gas line. Others don't. In most cases, you make up for it with the fact that you have some fees, so you're paying an additional amount. But when somebody tells me, well, we're paying taxes and that should cover everything, keep in mind we have a major problem in this town with unaccepted streets and streets that aren't maintained. You may or may not live on one of those streets. You may or may not live on one of the streets that's being plowed or was plowed this past winter. Do you have your rubbish picked up? Do they bother to pick up your rubbish at your street in front of your house, or do you have to take your rubbish to the next street, which is an accepted street, and they'll actually provide services on that street? At budget time, we get any number of these type of arguments. This past week, I heard from two people, and I'll just use one example. They were very nice. They were making an argument. We're a political body. These people are entitled, I believe, to make arguments to a political body. And both of them argued quite rationally that they shouldn't be paying anything, and the town shouldn't be paying anything for a library or library services. If they don't use the library, why are they paying for library services? And we don't own the library. You can see how far this argument eventually gets you. My point is that whether you're getting the services or not getting the services, in many cases, for a lot of the services in this town, you're all paying taxes. And now you've left to us the unfortunate job, and it really isn't a job that anyone here relishes. That is, now we have to make the decision whether you're going to have some sort of obligation to pay some fee, in addition to all of the other fees that Joe's mentioned that are paid in this town. What I'd like to see eventually is a town that can put a budget together that really addresses all of the issues and all of the concerns of the town. And as far as I'm concerned, that means, one, as an example, having a library. And it means, two, as an example, having recreational facilities. I believe that that's a town obligation and that you shouldn't really be paying a fee. But I look at the historical record and I realize, unfortunately, we've never had that approach in this town. And from year to year, we have absolutely no idea what the Budget Committee is going to award us or what the budget or the financial town referendum will provide as far as a budget. That's what we have to struggle with year after year.
Anyone else? From the council?
Yeah. I've got some comments. I will just limit my comments to field use fees, because I think the other ones are pretty innocuous. And I guess I'm stuck on this threshold. We have to establish what the benchmark is for these organizations, and I haven't figured out what that is. I mean, you guys have the inner workings of who. Let me ask this, correct me if I'm wrong. I understand that there is a lottery or some kind of lottery, something similar to a lottery for dedicated space every year.
For the field?
For the fields. If you're interested in having your team or your organization have a steady day or block of days or a schedule throughout the year, you go and you go to this event and there's a scheduling.
That's,
Right.
we're in the process of kind of fine tuning that.
Okay.
Right.
So you have an idea of who the organizations are. I don't really have an idea. I mean, I know there's baseball, there's softball, there's soccer, there's football. Do we have any? We have men's softball.
Wiffle ball.
Wiffle ball. My good friends, the Whifflers. Is that about it?
Yeah.
Okay. So I guess, and does this make sense to you when I say a threshold of what we're, if we can't draw a line that's straight and true, then you don't know where you fall. Are you on the bottom side? I have a team that travels one game. Am I a traveling team? I mean, that's what we get into, and that's the argument that I imagine would be made. So what do we do about that? Where is the threshold test? Where is the, litmus test for a team to prove or not to disprove the fact that they are a traveling or competitive team and they should be exempt? Because it doesn't sound like, and maybe I'm wrong, it doesn't sound like whatever this youth soccer organization is, doesn't seem like it meets that test, that they've got outside people, non-residents, or that they're competitive in nature and exclusive. I mean, sorry, go ahead, Nick.
No, they do have non-residents, though.
Oh, okay.
They do have some non-residents, and they're competing.
I believe the president isn't even from Tiverton.
They're competing against teams from outside of Tiverton, so there are non-Tiverton residents coming and playing against them on
I
Tiverton
see.
fields. So-
Yes.
But,
I see.
that's one way of approaching it. That's not what we had initially wanted to do.
Yeah.
Okay,
that's
it is much.
I'm on the rec committee.
It is again much easier.
Come on, I'm on the rec committee.
Okay, we're having a conversation. We'll have one conversation at a time, please.
It is much easier to make it a low, flat fee for everyone. And then we don't have to pick and choose. People don't have to feel like they're paying more than anyone else. It's not sport driven. It's just you're using the field, and here's your fee. But so what we were going with was competition outside of Tiverton itself.
That is an interesting data point that I hadn't considered, that if you have out-of-town teams playing at your home, I'm going to sound like an idiot. It's not a court. What is it? Just a home field. Don't make fun of me. Is that what it's, is that?
That's what the...
Oh, okay. All right, so whatever it's called, field.
Field is great.
Okay, great. So,
That's what the competitive is. They
Okay.
play other teams from other towns. My daughter did it forever. Like,
it's obvious that I excelled at youth sports.
Yeah, I know.
I know all of these things, clearly.
Well, no, because my daughter was a big part of the soccer team, but...
All right, so that's an interesting data point. All right. And the comment I would make is when I'm thinking about this, too, because the teams themselves, the youth teams, are not exclusive. They're inclusive of all children that fit in the age group and are Tiverton residents. But the organizations themselves, as they're applied to the use of the field, is exclusive. I know that because if I want to go hit golf balls at Town Farm and there's a baseball game going on because they have the field, I'm not allowed to do that, and rightly so, clearly. I don't hit golf balls on Town Farm, by the way.
I was going to ask if you did that.
But if you wanted to go walking or playing a pickup game or something, there are blocks of time, which Little League and softball and soccer and all of the organized sports have reserved. You cannot access the field if you're a member of the public. So there is an exclusivity to that, that right for those organizations to occupy the space and utilize that space. So when we talk about, anybody can use the space, there's a nuance to that that is important to note. The last thing is whether or not we have a fee and whether or not we create a mechanism or we have some action tonight or any other night on this issue, it doesn't make the cost or the need go away. And so it's not as simple as just saying, are you in favor of a fee or not in favor of a fee? And if you're not in favor of a fee and we don't have a fee, then we all go home and the problem is solved. There still are necessary costs, and we have to figure out a way to fund those costs. And Matt, our town administrator, sort of alluded to this and came out right out and said it at occasion about the economic situation we face in this town is not this is a painful exercise for everybody, but it's a necessary exercise, and it's not that we like grabbing money from people and spending it. It's that, at least for me, part of this exercise is making everyone understand that these costs and these expenses exist. And with a shrinking desire for many in this town to pay for those fees and costs, we are really at a hard spot. And if we do nothing, and next year the recreation budget is appropriated $10,000, $20,000, $30,000 less than it was, we're really going to be in trouble. And I know Matt comes from a background of a municipality that went through the bankruptcy process. Thankfully, we're not even talking about that, but that's a painful exercise that he has gone through, and we can learn a lot from. That we do not want to put ourselves in the position where, in future, we really are considering draconian measures to balance our budgets and to provide the necessary services of the town. And so there's a little bit of, give and take on this, and there's a little bit of, it might be unpleasant and unpalatable today, but in 5 years, if the FTR and budget process so chooses to eliminate the recreation budget entirely, we're going to be in a much worse position. Or even to reduce funding across the board such that we have to consider alternate cuts to areas that we can. And I'll only remind you that we had a ridiculously unprecedented winter that cost us an extraordinary amount of money, and we had to pull from many different places that we rather would have not pulled from. And now, going forward, we have to fix the mess that was created by that snowstorm in the form of potholes and broken infrastructure components. So there's really, the problem doesn't go away if we decide to not have a fee. I just want everybody to understand that.
Can I just address the council's comment?
As a member of
the Recreation Commission, I just want to make sure you understand that some of our youth organizations, in their original charter with the state, some of their charters do include surrounding towns, and I would have to defer to those organizations to give you that information. So we may have some out-of-town kids, but by charter, they are part of the town. Like Little Compton, I believe, is in the original charter for Tiverton youth soccer. So they're really, they're part of that. They're part of that group in the eyes of the state. That's the only place for them to be. And it might be the same for Schooners, and I'm not sure about baseball. But there are surrounding towns in these groups' original charters.
And that may be so, but unfortunately, we don't get a cut of the Little Compton tax base.
I understand.
So.
And believe me, I understand wholeheartedly that these fields need money to be maintained. I run a soccer tournament on them every year, and I put my own money into top dressing them before my tournament. That's the kind of condition they're in. So, and as a member of the Recreation Committee, I support raising money and getting money set aside for the maintenance of our facilities, all of them. I just implore you to try to get a restricted account. I think we'll get more support from our public. Thank you.
Anything further from the council?
Just one quick point. We're talking about like the adult league. I want to remind where these guys end up after the game. It's basically in a local restaurant or pub. See it all too often. So, I mean, just these type of activities do bring some economic into the town for the local businesses.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think we certainly want to encourage those organizations to participate, because those are the times where the fields are underutilized. The problem is, as Matt mentioned, that's when it actually, every other time of the day, it doesn't cost us per hour to keep that field going. It costs us, every kilowatt hour those bulbs are on. From dusk to, from sunset up till 10 o'clock. It's a considerable sum.
At this point, does the council want to offer any motion or any idea of where to go forward?
Madam President, if I could indulge the council, a lot of very important ideas and discussion. It was time well spent. I think with respect to the Recreation Commission that's already put a lot of work into this, we should remand this issue to them. See if we can arrive at a compromise similar to what Keith has suggested here tonight with the various different organizations, and then come back to you.
Matt, could I make one suggestion? Sure. I'd like to get, I really don't believe that we should be looking for any fees at all. But that said, I know what the historical record is in this town for what we pay for and the services we get or don't get. What I'd like to see from the group is a breakdown. Let me know what you're looking for in terms of a package, a total number, a final number per year. And give me a breakdown of how much of that you would propose should come from fees and how much should come from taxes. And maybe that's the best way to handle it, to see it as something of a joint effort. I would at least like to see what the numbers are. I don't want to drop all of this as fees on people who are using the fields. I don't want that. But I believe at the time she really assume a full obligation. But it may well be that we'll be at a point where we'll have to compromise. And I'd like to know what you believe would be the fair share coming from the taxes, from the budget.
Madam
Does that make sense?
Do you want to remand the entire fee schedule, or do you want to, is there broad consensus on the beach fees and summer
Yeah,
camp?
we need to advertise those as
Yeah,
well as
that's what I'm saying. We should
so if you can
We should get those done.
want to go.
Right, okay. All right, so do I have a motion regarding the beach fees?
Yeah, I will make a motion that we approve the recommended beach fee schedule for fiscal year 15-16 that Recreation has proposed for beaches as drafted.
Second.
Motion been made in second, all those in favor?
And that includes the equipment license rental. And I will also move that we approve the recommended recreation fee schedule fiscal year 15-16 for the summer camp items as listed.
Second.
Motion been made in second, all those in favor?
And I move that we, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
No. Joe did not vote yet.
I was opposed.
Yes,
He voted no.
Okay, I'm sorry. And on the first one? Were you opposed on the first one?
For the beach fees, I agree.
He was in favor.
So I make a motion that we remand this item, the field use fee schedule recommendation from the Recreation Commission, back to the Recreation Commission for deliberation and for delivery the first meeting in May. Is that something you guys can?
Sure.
I don't know what your meeting schedule looks like, but.
First Monday in May. And I was
So-
wondering, should we pursue the resolution for the restricted fund?
Well, it's too late now.
Too late.
It's too late now, it'd have to be looked at for next year.
Point of order, is it being continued for the public hearings being?
Yes, that's what I just,
Just to make it clear, I'm not going to vote for any program that would have fees going into anything but a restricted account. I'm not going to put that money into the budget committee.
Well, we could make it contingent on creating them.
There has to
I
be a
would agree to
restricted
that too,
account.
because it's just going to go in the general fund and be used for something else.
So nothing will go into effect till
I-
next year anyway.
I wouldn't vote
Likely
for any
not, yeah.
fees unless there's a...
What I would, and there's a motion, I think. Can we get a second just for?
Second.
So what I would have suggested, if it were up to me, I would suggest that once this fee schedule is created, you make it contingent upon the creation of a restricted account that would have to be prepared and approved at the next FTR and would be good for 3 years?
1 year.
Resolves are good for 3 years.
That's a good for one.
Okay, well, in the charter, it says they're good for 3 years, so, but, well, that's how I would
So what
suggest it
exactly is the
goes.
motion to continue the public hearing till May?
Till the first meeting in May.
Send it back to the recreation.
Correct.
Okay. We have a second on that? All those in favor? Opposed? Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
I'm going to take a 5-minute break while the room is clearing.
I just want to be clear, your motion